Trauma does not discriminate. People of every age, gender, or race may have experienced traumatic events and may be in therapy for reasons related to the trauma. This could be an individual who survived physical, mental, and emotional abuse from a loved one, a child who has lived through abuse and neglect, or a soldier that has seen atrocities. With the aid of art, individuals who have experienced trauma can heal and grow stronger through art therapy. Art can be traced back thousands of years and across every culture, therefore something about it must be vital to our being and extremely useful in recovering from trauma. Art therapy provides an exploration of identity for survivors of domestic abuse, nonverbal expression for children surviving trauma, and a method of processing for military veterans. Trauma is defined as a sudden and unexpected experience of shocking nature where death or threat to life occurs, creating feelings of intense fear, terror, and helplessness. Examples of trauma include accidents, witnessing another person being injured, exposure to constant neglect or abuse, experience of terrorism or war, or survival of a disaster and subsequent loss of significant aspects of one's life. There are specific factors surrounding traumatic events that determine the true impact they have on the individual involved, and along with varying factors come varying symptoms. There are specific symptoms used to diagnose an individual who has experienced trauma. Some of these include alterations in arousal, re-experiencing in flashbacks, avoidance of thoughts and feelings, negative moods, and developmental delays in children. These symptoms require specific therapy because trauma does not ordinarily get better by itself. Rather, it will manifest negatively in many aspects of one's life without a form of therapy. The fact that trauma has various effects over individuals, which creates various symptoms, suggests that art therapy has the ability to be beneficial for survivors of different types of trauma. Art therapy uses art media and the creative process to access both the verbal and nonverbal parts of the brain. This proves to be crucial in trauma recovery because trauma therapy requires the remembrance of damaging events and the reconstruction of them, both consciously and unconsciously. Art making is similar to inviting a third party into the conversation because it takes a direct attention off of the survivor and into the artwork. Art can communicate in a way that is cumbersome, if not impossible, to do with words. Identity exploration for domestic abuse survivors. Domestic violence is a pattern of behaviors in a relationship that are used in order to gain and maintain control over one's intimate partner. Survivors of abuse frequently feel a sense of helplessness, powerlessness, and worthlessness. Art therapy is an effective resource that can lead one back to a more accurate assessment of their personal identity as a survivor rather than a victim. Donna P., a survivor of domestic abuse, starts her blog about art therapy saying that art therapy does not require skill, it only requires you to try, which reiterates author Malchiotti's statement that art therapy is not just for artists because one does not need to encompass any form of artistic talent to benefit from art. Donna's first piece of artwork is a painting of her husband during the most recent physical abuse. Drawing an image of the perpetrator on a separate piece of paper allows the survivor to create emotional distance from the perpetrator and maintain an objective viewpoint. Creating art allowed Donna to reclaim the authorship and perceived meaning of the past experience. This controlled space within a single piece of paper gives the opportunity to identify as someone who is capable and not a victim. Donna's final piece of artwork, completed 9 months after the initial abuse, is a self-portrait. This final piece signified Donna's ability to identify herself as someone who survived and continues to thrive after the abuse. Donna vocalizes her transformation in saying that doing art gave her peace because we are all artists of our own lives. Art therapy allows one to gain a sense of control while validating their ability to reclaim their identity. Expression for children. Childhood is an extremely vulnerable time in an individual's life. As mentioned in the introduction, there are many factors that influence how trauma affects individuals, either in the form of one isolated event or repetitive stressful circumstances. Children experience trauma similarly to adults, with one difference being the developmental delays they acquire from the traumatic events. Children may have limited verbal skills, and art presents the ability for children to express themselves even in the absence of words. A case study done by author and psychologist Stephanie Brooke illustrates art as being able to say what the victims cannot say out loud. Brooke's 14-year-old client Janie, who is a survivor of sexual and physical abuse, is unable to vocalize the trauma in her life. Therefore, Brooke uses an art therapy approach that includes prompted art projects. In each picture that Janie draws herself, she is extremely small, black, and shapeless. Based on studies done by Emmanuel Hammer regarding meanings behind drawings, Brooke concludes that in Janie drawing herself extremely small and isolated in the pictures, she is expressing her feelings of insufficiency and unimportance. Janie's artwork conveys emotions that she is not able to recognize or communicate verbally, but only through art. Art has the ability to reflect emotions regarding violence that survivors are unable to express verbally. Processing for soldiers. Art therapy provides an opportunity for soldiers living with trauma to unlock dark emotions or memories through art making that will result in them overcoming the stigma often associated with being labeled as having a mental disorder. Overcoming this barrier with the help of art makes it possible for one to start processing trauma. An art program at George Washington University does a guided painting project where soldiers paint masks. This project is used to encourage processing. In creating art, one's brain is enabled to navigate on a new communication path that language doesn't, therefore giving the soldiers the ability to start processing the trauma itself, where they were otherwise unable to. Art therapy gives individuals the ability to make sense of situations and then process the meaning afterwards. One supports the ability of art to do this in admitting that he primarily thought of art therapy as a joke, and that he was wrong because he now believes that art is the enabling force that helps him to begin processing his trauma. Art therapy allows veterans to come to terms with realities, which enables them to begin processing. Though there may be a desire to discover and implement new, inventive techniques for trauma recovery, psychologist and Dr. Bruce D. Perry suggests that instead we should utilize something from our ancestors' remarkably effective healing tools that include rhythm, touch, storytelling, and reconnection to community, that all play a major factor in altering neural systems that are all detrimentally affected by trauma. These consistent aspects that assisted our ancestors to survive and persevere through traumatic events still to this day provide the right type of amount of stimuli to specifically influence and modify the impact of trauma, neglect, and maltreatment on an individual. As psychologist Stephanie Brooke was quoted saying earlier, art making is like inviting a third party into therapy, as it allows one to gain a sense of control over the intensity of his or her therapy process, along with validating their ability to heal, resulting in one regaining and exploring their identity as a survivor. Art therapy has the ability to reflect developmental delays and provide a nurturing outlet to nonverbally express and communicate underlying emotions regarding violence that the survivor of trauma is unable to do so vocally. Additionally, art therapy provides an opportunity for trauma survivors to come to terms with the realities of their past and current struggles, further enabling them to begin the processing of their trauma. Given the saddening accounts of domestic abuse, childhood trauma, and post-war trauma, one is not able to underestimate the power of healing through art, which is supported by Anjan Chatterjee in saying that art is around us, it is in us, it connects us, and it consumes us.